Andrew.
That's such a good introduction. That text, I think that has to be the best one because it covers so many different kinds of rhythms, which music obviously is one. I mean, I think I've been coming to these quite long since they almost started. I think, Audra, maybe you've said to me, why didn't you do one, Andrew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody.
And then I thought, when it came up with rhythm, I thought, well, I can't really get out of this one. Why not being a musician? So just a brief word about me. So I've kind of had various different rhythms of music over the years, and then I started more performing, playing lots of different kinds of bands and orchestras and theatre and stuff, and then got more into community kind of music, which covers all sorts of things, and then got into writing, composing, so I wrote all sorts of, in fact I've got a couple of CDs that I did with a theatre company. That's the first one. That's a clown-based theatre company I worked with on a few shows some years ago, and then more teaching, so different rhythms over the years changing, and that dynamic is always changing. But I just last night just bumped into somebody by chance, and I didn't recognise her, and she said, oh, I remember you from the opera, and then she reminded me, oh yeah, I wrote an opera, which I kind of forgot. And it was a few years ago, and it's very important, and she was reminding me all the stuff about which I kind of had forgotten. And it was a few years, I mean about 5-6 years ago, and it was all about Glasgow, the motorway coming through Glasgow. And I don't know how many people know this sort of story, but a lot of people had to be moved from places like Tradeston. So that was the whole piece was all about. And we interviewed a lot of people who had been moved. And she was one of the people who had been moved from the area of Tradeston and been moved to the brave new world of Cumbernauld, where she grew up. And she was reminding me about all this. And then a big aspect of it, to the important rhythm of it, is that being here is that we actually had refugees and asylum seekers in the show as a kind of Greek chorus, commenting from their perspective, because it was kind of a different kind of refugees. They were, Glasgow ones were kind of refugees within the city, in a sense, and they were kind of commenting from their perspective of rather different, coming from different parts of the world. So there was kind of like different, but there were similarities, and that was kind of weaved in the story. I didn't write the story. I mean, it was my idea initially, but then I wrote the music, but my colleague wrote the actual text. So that's a whole kind of different other kind of rhythm. What I'm particularly interested, one of the things I'm interested in as a musician is where it crosses with other art forms. I would like that kind of rhythm. And I couldn't believe that it was Basil that came up, because that's the clip, if you could have.
Oh yeah.
So in Basel there's a Tinguely museum. He was a famous artist, and there's a couple of there's crazy things he made. I don't know if anyone's seen Shamanka, but in Glasgow, it's in the same kind of vein.
Sorry, it's the white.
Don't worry, no, I
can
keep
pull
talking.
up the yeah. You keep. So is it the machine or the fountain?
Either of them, yes, both. Okay. So this is just one of those crazy things.
Sorry, guys.
And then there's another one outside. There's this huge big museum dedicated to stuff, and it's got all these kinetic sculptures. And I just love the way that the art and the rhythm and the music all come together. Particularly the random nature, you don't know what's going to happen next. And the other one is the fountain outside. If you get squirted, then I'm sorry. So anyway, that was Basil, so it was an amazing Basil connection. So another kind of rhythm, we are going to play, we are going to do some playing. But I just thought in the other kind of general sense of our own rhythm, how do we find our own rhythm? We're going to be maybe got time for a bit of talking a bit later at the end of the session. But one very important aspect, which there's a lot of research into rhythm, how people have their own rhythm, is early years, when you're very, very young, how you're brought up. And that will affect how you can keep rhythm and a beat. And there's interesting research in how if you're held and bounced, then you will develop a much stronger sense of rhythm. If you're not, if you're put in a like a seat or something as a baby, then you can learn it, but it's going to be harder to learn later on. So yeah, so there's all that kind of aspect of just your very, very first impressions, because you were born with a sense of rhythm because you will have been hearing heartbeats and stuff. But then if you put away somewhere, nobody bounced and helped. I mean, where was music invented? It was invented kind of trying to get kids to sleep. So you could take a swing, start dancing, and then you start singing, and that's how music was invented, creatively. So that's kind of an interesting aspect. So a lot of the work I do is in the psychiatric hospital or people with special needs, and that's extraordinary experiences I've had there. I could just talk about one or two non-specific ones, obviously. Just reminding you of the power of music and rhythm in particular. There was somebody, she came into the session, she was in a terrible state, don't know what had happened. Somebody else was dealing with that. I was just kind of setting up the instruments. And it was like, what's going to happen? Is she going to be able to join the session? You're going to have, when she comes in, you're going to have to like talk and, or, so this is all happening, and I was getting the instruments set up. There's other people there. I think, should I say anything when she comes in? She came in, and we just like started the music. I didn't say, oh, are you okay? I didn't do any of that kind of. And as soon as the music started, within seconds, she was absolutely fine. Oh. Absolutely fine. Just the power of just being totally involved in playing was actually brilliant. Oh, God, yeah, that's what I do it. Just the energy of that. And it was another incident I thought might be quite interesting was I worked in the intensive care ward in the psychiatric hospital sometimes. That's not people who are mentally ill, not and often on medication. And somebody came in. I thought, oh, they'll be wanting to like. Sometimes people come in, they just need to play drums really, really loudly, really fast, and get it out of the system. And this guy, I assumed he was wanting to do that. He came in. He was so medicated that he said at the end that he felt that he was sleeping. And so he played really quiet music because it was like he didn't want to wake himself up from this sort of dream. So that's not what I expected. So the whole session was really quiet music, terribly delicate, and everybody else kind of like realised this and kind of tuned in, because sometimes people are very different, different spaces, and so it's kind of trying to link everything together is often a challenge. So people talk about flow, don't they, when they're in work. We've all been familiar with the idea. What you're doing, it's like when you're so involved in something, time passes and you're not aware of other things. And sometimes that can happen for a short time or longer time, whatever. And everybody's got their own kind of idea of flow. So we might talk about a wee bit about that later. But for me, particularly if I'm writing some music, I will work in quite short bursts of energy, and then I'll have to go and do something else, and then come back to it. Turn the kettle on something and come back. That's just what I do. But everybody's probably got their, or go outside. Yes, that's always classic. Go outside, fresh air. But I was thinking about that. There's a lot of research recently about what's the best way of functioning, of concentrating, especially is that what you read out is like phones pinging, and is that good? And I went to a thing, Feldenkrais. Anybody know about this? Oh yes, that's right. So originated in Africa, obviously, and played for probably thousands of years rather than hundreds of years. And when in our dark history, when people were forcibly taken from Africa over to the Americas, the people very friendly, the people in charge didn't want the Africans to play the drums
Americas in particular, because they thought that would be a very threatening. They would be sending messages and stuff with the drums. So they were banned. So the Africans were banned from playing the drums in North America. But apparently in South America, it was more Portuguese and Spanish people in charge there. They were slightly more relaxed. So drumming was allowed there, which has developed in. That's why Latin American music is much more drum and percussion based. Whereas in the Americas, the Africans weren't allowed to play drums, but they were allowed to play string instruments because they did have string instruments originally in Africa. So that's why they developed kind of blues and vocal music. So that's why so it's kind of an interesting aspect of the North and South. But we have the drums.
I think a couple of people brought instruments as well. Should we get those out?
Yes. So now is a very good time. So we're going to do a bit of drumming. I've got some other instruments, and not quite yet. We're going to get the instruments. We'll get the instruments out. We're not going to get you use the instruments for a few minutes. We're going to do a couple of things first.
Yeah.
So if you've got the instruments out handy, so if it's not tidy, you can open it. Can we say? So the people, I've got a few drums. So can the people with the drums sit initially on this side down here? You like to go that side? So sticks in, you can hit something else. If you've got another instrument, take drumsticks for now. And it's handy. There's drumsticks. And I've also got some shakers here, so you can have people playing shakers as well, but not quite yet. So the shakers here. So everyone's got a percussion instrument at the moment, yes? And another instrument handy. Okay. So let's just find a pulse. First of all, let's all play together, just a simple beat. The drum people carry on. The stick people stop. Everyone else, so the drums carry on. So the people with the sticks, I want you to play in the gap of the. So the people with the sticks, I want you to carry on playing. So I'm going to put the drum people off now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'd like for you, the drummers, to come back in the same place as you were playing before. Well done. So I'd like to do that one, but you've done it before. Okay, so you're going to stay both of the times, so you're going to come out before. You like to come back in with 2 this time. That's it, very good. Keep playing the sticks. So this time when you come back in, you like to come in double like they are doing. Somebody else like to bring us back in? Drums, not my idea, somebody else. Very good, okay. So that's you got the hardest job. Okay, so if anybody else like to get their own instrument that they brought, there's also shakers. Guys, you'd like to get on the guitar.
I love a shaker.
You've got guitar and trumpets.
I want to shake it.
Okay, so this time we're going to play. Also shake, yeah, we're going to play another one. Anyone can swap down. Maybe play next. You want to play on the drum? Your shape or carry on the singer.
I know what to do.
So, what we're going to do is, using that idea just as a beat, I'm not going to tell you exactly what to play this time, but we'll start with the you start with the drum. And then we've got the guys, I think we're going to come in on a riff. So I will bring people in, kind of thing. Okay? So you don't have to stick to that, just what we did. You can come in with a beat of your taste if you want. I'll tell you if it's sensible. I'm sure you've been back and forth together. So.
Shall we just start?
Give it a go. Imagine that too, okay? So the shape is, yeah, exactly right, yeah. Everybody back in after 4. 2, 3. So, thanks very much.